Hey everyone, it's Skylar. Welcome back to another video. Today we are talking about the Monstera. So the Monstera, or otherwise known as the Swiss cheese plant, is very well known for its gorgeous foliage. The fenestrations in the leaves here are very popular. Now the two main types you're going to see indoors are the Monstera adansonii and the Monstera Deliciosa, which is my plant that I have here in the corner. So the Monstera is a gorgeous, gorgeous tropical plant. It's native to Central America. It's very popular for these fenestrations or holes in the foliage. The fenestrations are common in the more mature leaves, and your brand new leaves won't have as many holes in them. So one thing that's interesting is that the Monstera, in its natural habitat, it does flower and it does produce a fruit that is edible. However, you're not likely to see this indoors since the circumstances just aren't adequate enough for it to flower inside. It is a vining plant. It loves to climb. Now, my plant here hasn't been staked just yet, but typically at a plant this size, you do want to go ahead and create a trellis for it to have something to climb up. Some people will tell you that if you are a brand new beginner, don't get the Monstera because it's just going to die on you. And I would say don't be afraid. If you really enjoy this plant, just go ahead and get one. They are pricier, but another neat feature about this plant is that they're super, super easy to propagate. So if you happen to buy one, make some cuttings, you can propagate your own, you can have so many plants around your house. But anyway, it's a very forgiving plant. The most common mistake I see people make is overwatering their plants. And it's so much easier to bring a plant back that has been underwatered than one that has been overwatered. And that is because if you overwater the plant, you are drowning its roots, you're going to cause root rot. And it's very hard to bring a plant back once that's happened. Now, I live in the desert. It's very dry here. There's not a whole lot of humidity. So I water mine maybe once every 2 weeks. Around the summer months, maybe once a week and a half. It just depends. You just kind of watch and see. It'll tell you when it's thirsty. The leaves kind of droop a little. It just doesn't look as perky. You just give it some water and then she's good to go. Wait in between waterings. You want to check the soil about 2 to 4 inches in and make sure that the soil is dry before watering it again. It does like humidity. It does like to stay moist for the most part, but you don't want to overdo it with the watering again, like I said. Now, because this is a native tropic plant, it does thrive in high humid places. If you live in an area of high humidity, like say Florida, it's going to do very, very well. Like I said, I live in the desert. It sits in an east-facing window, so it gets a lot of sun in the morning, and it does very well. Your normal humidity in your house should be okay. I do keep various plants around it just to keep the humidity up, and it really does enjoy that. It flourishes well. Bright light is best. Bright light but indirect. So like I said, mine sits in an east-facing window. It gets that really nice bright light in the morning that comes through the curtains, and then as the sun goes over the house, we open up the curtains and it just continuously stays light in here all day. So do some observations around your house and try and pick the room that has the best lighting for all day. You want a room where it's bright enough but not scorching hot. So try to avoid west-facing windows. If you place it in front of a window, make sure you place it a few feet back, maybe 5 feet or so away from the window. You don't want to scorch these things. I keep mine kind of back in the corner more so it gets that dappled light coming through the curtains, and it does so well here. It really loves this spot. So I tend not to move my plants when it's doing well in a particular area. As far as temperature, you want to make sure that your house is staying somewhere between 65 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, I don't know many people that live outside of this range inside their homes, but if you're one of those people that really cranks the AC full blast and really likes your space cold, You should consider placing your Monstera in a room that's a little warmer. Give it an area that's warmer instead of, right under the AC or in your bedroom where you like it cold at night. So just keep that in mind. Another thing you want to do is make sure that you are rotating your plant. So just rotate it a little bit every week or so, just to make sure that it's growing evenly on all sides. You don't want your plant to be reaching one side towards the light and then it kind of becomes leggy. Like I said, these plants can become very top heavy, so if it starts leaning a lot to one side and you don't have a trellis for it to hold on to, it will tip over. So some things to keep in mind: fertilize your plants. Please, please, please fertilize your plants. They will love you for it. I tend to fertilize mine during the growing periods between spring to fall. So with these guys, you can just use any normal house plant fertilizer and do it about once a month. Also be sure to inspect your leaves, under your leaves, around the stems, the soil. Make sure that you don't have a pest problem. You want to catch it early if you do, otherwise it's going to be very, very hard, depending on the pest, to get rid of them. So make sure you do frequent inspections. You also want to make sure that you are cleaning the leaves and the foliage of any dust. Indoor house plants are away from the elements such as wind and rain, so they don't get that good dusting off the leaves to get that adequate photosynthesis going on. So really make sure that you're using a wet sponge or wet towel and really just get the dust off. You could give it a good spray down in the shower. So when you are cleaning these guys and you do see some pests, some neem oil should help do the trick on eradicating and preventing pests. I will do a separate video on how to get rid of pests, depending on the pest, so be on the lookout for that in the future. But for the most part, just use some neem oil, get a little spritzer, spritz it right on the pest, or use a cotton swab and just swab those pests off, and that should do it. When I was a beginner with plants, I was confused about watering. I didn't really understand how to water, and it seems so simple. You just water your plants, duh, right? But you really have to make sure that you're watering them fully. So for all of my houseplants, I use filtered water. We have a reverse osmosis system, so that is just what we use. Where I live, we have very harsh tap water with lots of minerals, and I don't want that to build up in the soil, and if that happens, you'll get some burning on the edges of your leaves. So I really just take care to not use the tap water at all. I use the reverse osmosis, or use filtered water if you have it. If you live in an area that rains a lot, take advantage of that. Get you a bucket, put it outside in the rain, and use that to water your plants. So when you're watering, like I said, make sure that your soil is dry. You want to stick your fingers in about 2 to 4 inches and make sure that the soil is dry, and then go ahead and give it a nice soak. Now, how I water my plants is I usually, on all of my plants, I have a tray underneath, so I water them all the way through until I see that water start to come out of the bottom of the holes. And then that water collects in the tray there. I will typically leave my plants about an hour or so in that puddle of water, just to give the roots some time to suck up that water and get a good drink. Now you really want to be careful not to leave your plant in a puddle of water for long periods of time, because what you are essentially doing is drowning your plants and you're going to get the root rot. So please, if you're doing this, just drain the water, drain whatever's left within an hour. That means your plant's done drinking, and just toss that water. You don't want to drown these guys. Just take care of them. If your Monstera is getting too big like mine, and I'll show you. She's a big girl. If she is looking like this, go ahead and cut her. Just cut her back, prune her a little bit. You want to save your pruning for the growing periods, same with fertilizing. So fertilize and prune from spring to fall, because winter is just a good time for relaxation and just dormancy for a lot of creatures on the planet. So don't stress out your plants too much by cutting them or fertilizing during these periods. You really don't need to. So wait until the summer months to do so. Now, when you cut back your Monstera, one of the things I like to do is make sure you cut where there's plenty of leaves or nodes and stick it in a glass of water, and she will grow roots, and you can just stick her in another pot and you have a second plant. They are super, super easy to propagate. Like I said earlier, they are pricey, but once you have your plant, I mean, you can do so much with them. Another common question is, how frequently should you repot your Monstera? And that kind of depends. So typically, when you start to see the roots growing out of the bottom of your pot, or they're kind of sticking out from the top of your pot, or you lift your plant out of the pot, you take a good look at the roots, and if it looks like ramen noodles, then it's probably time to do a replant. Repot. So that typically takes maybe every 2 years. When choosing a new pot for your Monstera, you want to put her in a pot that is about 2 to 4 inches bigger than the previous one. And choose a soil that has plenty of aeration. For most of my houseplants, I use just regular potting soil. I get an organic potting soil mix from Lowe's, and I add perlite in it just to make sure there's plenty of aeration. So really just treat your plants with love and care, and they will do the same for you. There are so many benefits to having indoor plants. They will treat you right as long as you treat them right. So that's it for today's video. If you have any questions on caring for Monsteras or any other plants that you want to see me do a video on, let me know in the comments. Until next time, see ya.